Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content. Subscribe and turn on notifications. You only deserve once a month. My wife said it with a smile. Not a nervous smile. Not an embarrassed one. A calm, polished smile, like she was setting a household rule over dinner. The fork stopped in my hand. We were sitting at our kitchen island with the pendant lights glowing over her wine glass, soft music playing from the living room, our plates still warm. To anyone looking in from the outside, it would have looked like a normal Thursday night in a good home. Then she added, almost laughing, "Honestly, Daniel, at your age, you should be grateful for that." I looked at her for a long second. Then I smiled too. And I asked, very quietly, "How many times a month does he deserve?" Her smile faded. Not all at once. First her eyes blinked. Then her shoulders went stiff. Then her hand slowly set the wine glass down as if it had suddenly become too heavy to hold. "What are you talking about?" she asked. That was the exact moment I knew two things. First, I was right. Second, she still had no idea how much I knew. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was 42 when that happened. I own a regional logistics company I built from one used cargo van, a rented storage unit, and more 18-hour days than I can count. By the time this story begins, the business was stable, our mortgage was nearly paid off, and from the outside, my wife Elena and I looked like a couple who had survived the hardest years and finally made it. We had been married for 11 years. And for most of them, I believed we were solid. Elena was beautiful, smart, organized, socially effortless in ways I never was. I'm not the loud guy in a room. I don't charm people for fun. I work, I plan, I remember details, and I show up. That was always my way of loving someone. I made sure the bills were paid early, the cars were serviced, the vacations got booked, the future was protected. I thought that counted. For a long time, I thought she knew it counted too. The changes started small, which is probably why I ignored them longer than I should have. She became protective of her phone. Not secretive in an obvious, movie-style way. Just subtle enough to make me question myself. She started taking calls on the patio, turning her screen face down, smiling at messages and then clearing the notification before I got close enough to see the name. Then came the comments. "You've gotten boring lately. You never do anything spontaneous. You're always tired." It's amazing how effective disrespect becomes when it's delivered in pieces. No screaming. No clear event. Just a slow drip that makes you feel like the version of yourself you've been carrying is somehow no longer enough. I tried to fix it at first. I booked a weekend trip she said she was too busy to enjoy. I brought flowers home and she said, "What did you do wrong?" I made reservations at the restaurant where I proposed, and she spent half the dinner on her phone under the table. Then intimacy changed. Not disappeared. It became scheduled, rationed, handled like a favor. There was no warmth in it anymore, no closeness after, no softness. Just distance with a polite face. One night, when I tried to talk about it, she rolled onto her back, stared at the ceiling and said, "Maybe this is just what marriage looks like after 40. That sentence stayed with me. Not because it hurt. Because it felt rehearsed. A week later, I noticed something else. Her gym schedule had changed, but her body language around it had changed more. New clothes. New perfume she said she bought, for herself. Appointments that ran long without explanation. A confidence that wasn't coming home to me, but was clearly coming from somewhere. The first real crack came from something stupid. A parking receipt. I was cleaning her car on a Sunday morning, something I did sometimes because I like order, and a small white ticket slid out from under the passenger seat. It was from the underground garage of the Marlowe Hotel downtown. It was 2:14 p.m. Elena had told me she was spending Wednesday afternoon with her sister. I remember sitting there in the driver's seat, staring at that little piece of paper, feeling something cold settle behind my ribs. I still didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to be wrong. So I checked. The following Wednesday, I told her I had a supplier dinner out of town. I left the house in a suit, drove 20 minutes, parked near one of our warehouse properties, and waited. At 1:07 p.m., she left the house in a cream blouse I'd never seen before and heels too impractical for anything casual. I followed at a distance. She didn't go to her sister's. She went downtown. To the Marlowe. I watched her step out of the car, check her reflection in the window, and walk inside like she'd done it before. I sat behind the wheel with both hands gripping so hard my knuckles ached. Even then, I didn't storm in. Maybe that surprises people. Maybe they think betrayal instantly turns you into fire. For me, it turned everything silent. I felt sick, but I also felt strangely clear. Because once you see the shape of a lie, all the smaller lies around it start making sense. I hired a private investigator the next morning. Not because I needed drama. Because I needed facts. His name was Colin. Former police, patient, boring in the most reassuring way possible. He never tried to feed me outrage. He just asked, "Do you want truth, or do you want to fight?" "Truth," I said. He nodded. "Then let me do my job." Within 10 days, I had more than enough. Photos of Elena meeting a man named Trevor at the Marlowe twice a week. Video of them entering together. Copies of restaurant charges from a card I paid off every month without checking closely because I trusted her. Phone records showing months of contact. Midday calls. Late-night messages. Long silences from my side of the bed finally explained by light from her screen under the blanket. Trevor was 33. A sales consultant. Recently divorced. The kind of man who wore confidence like cologne and borrowed status from whoever was standing next to him. I expected rage when I saw his face. What I felt was insult. Not because he was better than me. Because she had traded our life for something so thin. The turning point came when Colin sent me audio from a lunch patio 2 blocks from the hotel. The recording was legal where we lived because Trevor himself had triggered part of it through a monitored business device connected to an unrelated inquiry. That detail mattered later. In the recording, Elena laughed and said, "Daniel notices nothing. He works, comes home, eats, sleeps. Sometimes I think I could bring you into the kitchen and he'd apologize for being in the way." Trevor laughed. Then she said the line that ended my marriage long before the divorce papers did. "He only gets once a month now. I told you, I control that part." They both laughed. I played that clip 3 times. Not because I enjoyed it. Because pain has a way of turning unbelievable things into things you need to hear again just to accept they're real. After that, I stopped grieving the marriage I thought I had. I started preparing. First, I copied every financial document we had. Accounts, property records, insurance policies, business ownership documents, retirement statements. Then I met a family law attorney named Rachel Kim. Sharp, calm, impossible to rattle. She went through everything and said, "You're in a good position if you stay disciplined." That became my entire mindset. Discipline. No yelling. No threats. No revenge texts. No late-night confessions to mutual friends. I moved a portion of liquid business reserves into protected operational structures she advised. Perfectly legal. Perfectly documented. I changed passwords, updated beneficiary instructions where appropriate, and made sure no personal account could be quietly emptied while Elena still believed I knew nothing. Then I waited for the right moment. It came on her mother's 65th birthday. Elena insisted we host dinner at our house. Immediate family, a few close friends, her sister and brother-in-law, about 14 people total. She loved performing happiness in front of other people. It gave her confidence. It also gave me exactly what I needed, witnesses. That evening, she floated through the house in a dark green dress, laughing, touching my arm in front of guests, playing the affectionate wife. Twice she called me sweetheart, in a tone so polished it almost made me admire the effort. Dinner ended. Cake was served. Her mother opened gifts. The room softened into that post-meal warmth where everyone thinks the night is settling down. Then Elena, holding a glass of champagne, glanced at me and said with a teasing smile, "Daniel's been in a strangely good mood lately. Maybe I should reward him. Once a month clearly keeps him grateful." A few people gave the kind of uncomfortable laugh people make when they don't know if a marriage joke is actually a warning sign. I looked at her. The room quieted, and I said calmly, "How many times a month does Trevor deserve?" You could hear someone set a fork down. Elena's entire face changed. "Daniel, she said, her voice low and sharp. What are you doing? I stood, walked to the sideboard, and picked up a sealed manila envelope. What I should have done the day I found out, I said. I handed one copy to her. One to her sister. One to Rachel, who stepped in from the hallway exactly on time. Elena hadn't noticed her arrive because she'd been too busy enjoying the room. Inside were the hotel photos, phone summaries, transaction records, and the preliminary filing for divorce based on adultery and financial misconduct tied to shared assets. Her mother opened her mouth but said nothing. Her sister looked at the photos, then at Elena, and whispered, "Tell me this isn't real." Elena stood so fast her chair scraped the hardwood. "This is insane," she snapped. "You hired someone to spy on me?" "No," I said. "I hired someone to confirm what you'd already decided I was too stupid to see." She turned red, then pale, then angry again. "Trevor means nothing." That almost made me laugh. "Then you destroyed your marriage for nothing," I said. Rachel stepped forward and set her briefcase on the table. "From this point on, all communication regarding property, access, and settlement goes through me." Elena looked around the room like someone might rescue her. No one did. Because humiliation hits differently when it isn't manufactured. When it's simply truth arriving in public. The fallout was ugly, but it was real. Trevor vanished almost immediately. Men like that usually do when consequences stop being theoretical. Elena tried calling him for 2 days before realizing she had blown up her life for someone who didn't even want the inconvenience of staying. Her family was divided at first, then less divided once more details came out. The credit card charges. The lies. The way she talked about me when she thought I'd never hear it. The divorce took 7 months. She fought hardest over the house, then the investment accounts, then appearances. What she wanted most, I think, was not to lose the version of herself that existed in other people's minds. But once a lie collapses, it doesn't care how elegant the furniture was around it. In the settlement, she got enough to start over. Just not enough to pretend nothing happened. And me? I slept better. Not immediately, but steadily. The first morning I woke up alone and didn't feel dread sitting on my chest. I made coffee, stood in my own kitchen, and realized peace is much quieter than love bombing, charm, or fake apologies. It doesn't perform. It doesn't beg to be seen. It just lets you breathe. A year later, the house feels different. Cleaner. Honest. The business is growing. I laugh more. I trust myself more. That may be the biggest thing betrayal gives you if you survive it the right way. Not cynicism, but clarity. I used to think being a good husband meant enduring more than you should. Now I know better. Respect is not a reward someone dangles over your head. Love is not a monthly ration. And the moment someone starts treating your dignity like a privilege they control, the relationship is already over. They just haven't realized you're the one about to leave it. That night at the kitchen island, Elena thought she was mocking me. What she didn't understand was that by the time she smiled and said I only deserved once a month, I had already learned the truth. And the only thing left to decide was when to let her watch her own smile disappear. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.